My Dreamy Doctor. Chapter 1. See you in the next life. Li Hang. I don't know if you will receive my message. This is my first time texting you. And it might be the last. I've promised to be your bride, but I'm sorry I have to go back on my words. See you in the next life. Muqing's trembling voice reverberated around the gloomy operating room. She laid on the ice-cold operating table as the pungent stench of antiseptic filled the air. She had gotten her surgeon to send those words to Li Hang on her behalf before she was to undergo her cardiac surgery. She had called the number countless times, but, alas, there was no response after several attempts. She was filled with despair before entering the operating room. But the text message, which highlighted her anticipation for the next life, offered a glimpse of hope in the midst of her woeful state. After the anesthesia started taking effect, she gradually shut her eyes as a drop of tear rolled down her delicate and pale cheeks. However, unbeknownst to her, the message was never sent. In fact, there was not even a single word typed on the phone. Standing by her side was a tall man with a perfectly sculpted body and a steady gaze. While he removed his surgical mask to reveal a charming face, his fervent gaze was set on the unconscious Muqing. He muttered under his breath, "We do not need to wait for the next life. I have returned. My dear." Li Hang put on his surgical mask as he lifted his hands to begin the procedure. He was so agile with his hands' movements that they seemed to be dancing beneath the surgical lamps. At this moment, the operating room was a pin-drop silence with more than 10 leading cardiology experts from local and overseas surrounding the table. Within the crowd, there were black-haired, blonde, brown-haired, and even a mix of black and gray-haired persons present. Despite the stark difference in nationalities, they shared a single commonality. They were all female. The moment they received news of the surgery, they immediately abandoned all matters they had on hand to attend the operation procedure. One of them even rejected the Queen's invitation and flew in from across the globe without hesitation. All of this was for the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to witness the medical prodigy live in action. And that was an honorable thing for a medical practitioner. After all, Li Hang was deemed to possess the hands of God in the surgical field. As the hands of God could save lives easily, it could do the opposite just the same. With these hands, he shall reign above all and amass the wealth comparable to that of a nation. He brought order to the chaotic Red Sea, acting as a guardian. He was revered by many as he was worshipped by the people. Then again, why would the mighty guardian of the Red Sea appear in this puny operating room? It all started 16 years ago when Li Hang's biological brother suddenly lost his life. Worse still, he was driven out soon after, together with his critically ill mother, by his father. From there on, they roved about before settling in Ning province. After the passing of his mother, Li Hang had nowhere else to turn to, and eventually, he resorted to sleeping on the streets. One day, he was chased after by a frenzied stray canine. Just when he was caught in his bleakest and most vulnerable moment, a young lady dressed in an elegant floral dress appeared before his eyes. Wielding a makeshift rod in her slim hands, she fought back her fears as she mustered her courage to chase away the mad dog. After the incident, she even brought Li Hang back to her small and humble home. While Muqing's family was not the wealthiest of all, they had no problem accommodating a little beggar like Li Hang. It was Muqing and her family that reignited Li Hang's courage and will to live. The time spent in this family was also his warmest and happiest moments. With each interaction, the little buds of love blossomed between the two young children. They secretly vowed to stay together for the rest of their lives. Not long after, Li Hang met a beggar, who would later become his teacher. This old beggar revealed to him that Muqing suffered from congenital heart disease and would never make it past 25 years of age. It was these words that fueled his passion to study medical. He was resolute to save her no matter what. Li Hang then boarded a ship and sailed to faraway lands together with the old beggar. As they parted, Muqing gave him her treasured chocolate tin. In return, Li Hang left her his late mother's contact details. With that, he repeatedly reminded her to call him if anything happened. He swore to her again and again that he would definitely return to her side. Then, he left with the old beggar to the Red Sea. The Red Sea was a vast land and a relatively rich nation. At the same time, it was also a land of chaos in which war would break out at any time. However, within a short period of 5 years, Li Hang managed to claw his way to the peak, facing off with the most powerful opponents, one after another, in the Red Sea. He accomplished this mind-blowing feat at the tender age of 15. When Li Hang turned 18, he had all but eliminated all the obstacles in his way. At that moment, he finally established his status as the strongest in the Red Sea, towering over all others as God. Since then, his scalpel almost never left his hands as he worked hard to treat the people. He treated civilians and pulled aristocrats out of the hands of death. Even the filthy rich or the presidents of nations were subjected to his mood swings when they booked an appointment with him. Through his years of practice, he had gained an unparalleled reputation for himself universally. Medical prodigy, guardian of the Red Sea, with a stomp of his foot, the world trembled at his mercy. Now, he had returned. A gentle breeze sneaked through the snow-white window. Like a tender caress, it swept through Muqing's silky hair. As Li Hang watched Muqing sound asleep, the corners of his lips lifted into a sweet smile. The operation was a resounding success. Muqing's condition received temporary relief. Muqing's heart disease was congenital, hence she could not rely on surgery to cure her condition. The only way to strengthen her body was to go through a steady rehabilitation which required constant monitoring. As such, the guardian of the Red Sea would have to be by her side at all times from now on. But, Li Hang had to live anonymously as his departure from the Red Sea was a top secret. After all, it could attract unnecessary attention if the news was leaked out. Subsequently, Muqing would suffer unwarranted criticisms as the public enemy. This would in turn become an unnecessary source of stress and a potential headache to her. All in all, revealing his identity would only hinder her recovery. Secondly, Li Hang had returned home for another purpose. When the old beggar passed on, he had left a dying wish with Li Hang, hoping the latter would help to fulfill it in his place. So before he completed this mission, he could not reveal his identity. As he thought of this, Li Hang fished out a chocolate tin, the one that had accompanied him for 16 long years. That year, as they parted, Muqing had given her prized chocolate tin to him. She had hoped this tin would serve as a reminder of their promise to each other. From within, Li Hang took out a piece of chocolate and threw it into his mouth, slowly chewing. His favorite chocolate changed over time, but the tin who carried them had never once been replaced. Be it in times of happiness, or in times of anxiety, chocolate would always be his primary source of comfort. That velvety texture with sweetness never failed to warm the cockles of his heart. At this point, he didn't know whether he was feeling happy or anxious when he took the piece of chocolate. Li Hang's mouth gaped slightly as he stretched out his hands towards Muqing's flawless cheeks. Ka-cha! The doors to the ward suddenly swung open. A middle-aged couple was seen entering. The man was in a wheelchair while being wheeled in by the woman. They were Muqing's parents. Muqing inherited several of her virtues from her parents. Following closely behind was the director of this private hospital. Just 2 days ago, Li Hang had spent a hefty sum of 20 million to acquire this hospital. At that time, he only had a single aim in his mind, which was to provide a comfortable and conducive environment for his fiancée's rehabilitation. The success rate of her operation was a mere 5%. Before she entered the operation room, Everyone was aware that the chance of her getting out alive was slim. But who knew Li Hang could work magic with his expertise? If not for the presence of outsiders, the director would have kneeled down before him right on the spot. He must be God. Doctor, why is my daughter still asleep? Xu Xiaoyang appeared frail and dispirited. For the past half a month, the tumultuous events at home had prevented him from getting a proper rest. As Li Hang fixed his gaze on Xu Xiaoyang's legs, his eyelids twitched. With just a quick glance, he was able to diagnose his condition, and he concluded that his legs was curable. She should wake up in no time. Just as he spoke, a soft groan sounded from the bed. My daughter's awake. Shu Muqing's mother, Liu Yufan, rushed over to her bedside. Shu Muqing's long eyelashes quivered gently as her eyes fluttered open. Mom, Qing, my precious baby, finally, you are awake. Li Hang's stitching technique was so extraordinary that even after the surgery, Shu Muqing did not feel much pain after waking up. On the contrary, she felt more energetic. Shu Muqing's eyes narrowed onto Li Hang. Similarly, Li Hang's eyes met with hers as he put on a subtle smile. Shu Muqing felt a huge wave of memories sweeping through her when she saw his smile. That smile looks very familiar. You are? I'm Li Hang. Li Hang. Shu Muqing stared at Li Hang, paralyzed in shock. You are Li Hang. Is he back? Welcome to download Bravonovel app to read My Dreamy Doctor novel full story online.